Welcome to Just Talk Funerals with me, Jason Threadgold.
And me, Nicola Threadgold.
Just Talk Funerals is all about the funeral industry, the people that work alongside us, and an insight into what we do.
We will have some special guests along the way, sharing their experiences and how their professions overlap with what we do.
So get yourselves comfy, grab yourselves a cuppa, and let's get into today's episode of
Just Talk Funerals.
Hello and welcome to our next episode of Just Talk Funerals. So it's myself, Jason Threadgold, and my amazing wife, Nicola Threadgold, sat next to me today.
Hello.
We're going to be talking today about the National Association of Green Funeral Directors. Now, the National Association of Green Funeral Directors, Nicola, tell me what first drew you towards wanting us to become members of this association.
Okay, so as part of a group that I am involved in, which sort of started as a journey in 2023, the F Entrepreneurship, there was some courses around sustainability. So I had a look at those courses and did some work on sustainability through them, and was quite encouraged by what we could do as a business in terms of our own sustainability. And you know, it's around making sure that our children and the younger generation have got a future in terms of making sure of what we're doing now. So sort of looking at different aspects of what we could do within our own funeral business, with the funeral homes, the cars, in terms of that sustainability. And the research then brought me to the Association of Green Funeral Directors, which, you know, having looked at that, it was like, yeah, actually, that's something that sort of aligns with us that we could actually be involved in.
So you talk about sustainability there, and I know that you're heavily involved with it, not just locally, but nationally as well. Mm. When does sustainability go beyond the point of being like an add-on and become part of day-to-day?
I think it's like anything. Once you bring it into day-to-day and it forms part of a habit, then you just accept it. It's just knowing what resources you've got available to you and doing your research to see which areas you can be more sustainable with. You know, for the likes of some of the suppliers we work with, we know that there are sustainable options. And we're not saying as a business that we will only deal in sustainability, because there are areas where some families are not ready to look at sustainability. They don't want those particular products. You know, they want other options. But just giving sustainability as an option, you know, or as a choice, is all that we're asking, isn't it? You know, we're not ramming that down people's throats because, you know, it's their choice at the end of the day. But having that sustainability option is all that we're doing, isn't it? Mm.
So you told us there where you've sort of first got introduced to it through the F Entrepreneurship. Mm. But through that F Entrepreneurship, how was it put to you? So I know you've said that's where you came across it. How did it physically get in your RAS, if you like?
Okay, so going on the training with other female entrepreneurs and listening to speakers around their journeys through sustainability and what they've put into practice within their businesses, it just started for me that it was like, well, actually, we could do that. We can look at our utilities. We can look at the usage of things. We can look at our cars. Are there certain cars that we could use in terms of electric or hybrid? You know, even down to, you know, the panels on our head office, you know, we had those installed, didn't we? You know, just to make a difference. And just to try and help the planet, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the entry level for me. This is my perspective on it. I mean, we'd sort of looked at solar panels, vehicles, things like that. But then you start looking that bit deeper and you start looking at where are your coffin manufacturers sourcing their woods from?
Yeah.
What electricity providers on top of your solar power, where are they getting their electric from and how are their renewables working and things like that. So it does get quite deep, doesn't it, in when how you're looking to get your resources into you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, there's lots of areas where I'd love us to be more sustainable, but, you know, through constraints of different things in our business, it's not feasible now, whether it is in the future. I'd love us to be more paper free and things like that, but it's around how we can do that, isn't it? These are not small tasks when you start to look at other areas, but they are things that we can maybe look to put as goals for the future and do these things in smaller steps. But like you say, working with suppliers, looking at green burial grounds, and in terms of that, we do quite a lot of green burials now, don't we? Or we give that option, and we do find ourselves, working with green burial sites.
Yeah, and there's lots of them around now, and they all differ so much, don't they? Some are often woodland burials, some are just greenfield sites, and others are beautifully laid out, like country retreats, really, aren't they? With ponds and nature reserves within them. So they're really, really good. So what stood out to you about the Association of Greenfield Directors? What made the difference between thinking, well, we could just do this, or we could be associated with this society? Why do you think we needed to go down that route?
I think for me, knowing that there was this membership was important, because then it's something that we are accredited to. It makes us a little bit more accountable. We're able to then be given advice in terms of what new things are coming along. It gives us, a credibility that we are, bothered about Earth and the world. And like I say, for me, it's around making sure that the next generation do have a world to live in, and, that there are things out there that we can, whether we're recycling or sustaining, that, we are playing a part.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people need to be made aware of this, really. It's not something that's just automatically granted to a funeral director. You don't just buy and become a member. You have to sign a pledge on this, and there's strict criteria on this that you have to stick to. That means that you can become a member, and they're forever testing you. If you slipped away from that, then you would have your membership taken away from you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think one of the main areas, and I think this is an area we do get questioned on, is around, whether we embalm. Because we don't, do we?
No.
Unless we legally have to.
Yeah, I mean, the only time you legally have to is when somebody's leaving the country, so they're being repatriated to a different country. By use of temperature. You can control how you look after somebody. Not every funeral director has that facility. And a lot of funeral directors do still choose to embalm. But, certain embalming fluids, they're not good for the environment, and the process to create them not good for the environment. So why would you create extra harm? I guess in one sense. Okay, so where the area membership kind of stood with us, how do you think we've reflected that in the processes of everything we do? So behind the scenes, really. It's all right saying we're members of this association, this is what we pledged to do. Behind the scenes, because people probably aren't going to see everything that goes on, how have we sort of bolstered that and actually followed through with things like that?
I think, we try to be careful with our energy, with our paper, and it's about instilling that into the rest of the team, isn't it? I think, we're always looking at like the utility side of things, as you said. We've got the solar panels. It's making sure that they continue to work and do their job. And we have seen it has been a good impact, hasn't it? Having the solar panels. Yeah.
I mean, it's double impact, really, isn't it? So in one sense, it has reduced our energy consumption as well. And equally, we know that we're not then drawing off the grid to take down as much electricity.
Yeah, definitely. We've looked at the car situation, haven't we? And as much as we're hybrid now, aren't we?
Every vehicle we've got now is a hybrid vehicle, at least. Some aren't full electric yet, so we're still working on that. We've got a mixture of plug-in electric and hybrid electric. So,
yeah. I mean, we've got our own charging point, haven't we, at head office?
Head office currently, they'll be getting rolled out to other branches sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And I think there's always been conversation around going fully electric, but that's a huge step, isn't it? And I do wonder, to be honest, whether electric is the future, whether there's going to be something like hydrogen that comes along and is very different, but obviously we will be looking at those options if that's what's going to happen. But I think for a funeral director to become fully electric is a big step, isn't it? You know, for the amount of miles that we do and the logistics of understanding how we would charge.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see actually a hydrogen-fuelled hearse. That's something that I've not seen. And there's very few hydrogen stations around the country anyway.
Yeah.
So there's very few hydrogen cars running around.
Yeah.
But it's something that's a waste product currently, so why would you not try and use it? It's just unfortunately it's a little bit unstable. That's the problem. So yeah, but they will get there. I'm sure they will get there.
Yeah, definitely.
How do families respond when you talk to them about being a member of this association? What kind of reaction do you get from them?
I think there's a surprise element because I don't think it's as well known. But I think I feel extremely proud to say that, you know, number one, we're members of the National Association of Funeral Directors, so we are a governing body, you know, that is our governing body in that respect. And then the fact that we are members of the Association of Green Funeral Directors. And like you say, you know, that's something we've had to make sure that we are adhering to, you know, what they state. So we become accountable in two areas, don't we? So, and I think, you know, for some families it's around, oh, tell me a bit more about that. You know, they're very curious. And, you know, for some people it's, you know, that's amazing. And actually, yes, we'd like to go down the route of a green burial. For others, it's like, well, actually, no, we're going with a cremation. And it doesn't make any difference to us. We're still giving choices, aren't we? And we're not judging anybody by the fact that they want a traditional funeral with a, you know, an oak coffin or anything like that. Everybody's got choices. But if we're just making small differences and giving choices to families that do want the sustainability, then why not?
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's the word choice, because I think people feel restricted when it comes to the choice. If their loved one said they want to be cremated, you instantly think you're going to go against that kind of green ethic. But when you start looking around, not every cremator's fueled by gas nowadays. No. There's electric cremators out there, which they're sourcing their power from wind and solar. A lot of the independent crematorium owners, they're kind of going down that route now. They're not putting in gas. They're able to recapture the energy that's being lost from their cremators as well. So it's not as bad as some people really think when you start widening your options out and looking further afield.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So have you had any really random questions asked of you when you've told people that you're a member of this association?
I wouldn't say random, but, you know, I think you get a lot of questions around, okay, so if we're talking in terms of sustainability, what sort of coffins could we have? You know, what are the choices? And, you know, you sort of start to then go down the route of actually, well, you don't have to have a coffin if you want to be totally sustainable in that respect. But, you know, naturally, you know, things like your wickers, banana leaf, things like that are very sustainable as long as you're using the right suppliers, because what you don't want to do is have a wicker coffin that's then got nuts and bolts in it. You know, it's got to be all completed by wood, and even the fastenings have to be wood, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, making sure that the linings of a coffin are cotton or sustainable fabrics.
I'm just going to jump in there because probably some people are thinking now, well, you've mentioned their banana leaf. The banana isn't going to grow naturally in the UK, is it? So you think, well, that can't be sustainable and it can't be good for the carbon footprint of it. What people probably don't realise is that, yes, they may well be manufactured further afield, but the way they're transported can make a massive difference. So what you tend to find is this kind of like Russian doll effect. So you might have a manufacturer making them in, say, Indonesia or something like that, and then shipping them into this country. But you'll probably have the largest coffin they do. You'll take the lid off, then it'll be smaller size until you get down. So in the space of where one coffin could potentially be, you've maybe got 5 or 6 coffins held within that one space. So you're reducing down that imprint on your carbon footprint just by utilising the space you've got and not leaving a hollow space. So I think they're clever in the way that they do that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think, you know, I would say, I don't know about you, but for me, most of the conversations have been around the coffin.
Usually.
Yeah.
And the resting place. So I'll probably say
Yeah.
if you're talking down the green burial route and the coffin itself, people, until we kind of tell them what are the things that they can do with their hybrid vehicles and other sustainable things within the funeral, they just naturally assume it's the coffin and the resting place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for you personally, what does sustainability mean to you?
I think, like I say, it's around protecting our environment, isn't it? And where we can recycling. And I'm sure there's so much more we could do, not just in business, but personally as well. But I think, it's just around protecting what we've got, isn't it? You know, and as I think as a society, we do waste a lot, don't we? You know, and if we can help, and that means that we're helping the generations to come, then, you know, we should be taking a part in that.
So with that in mind, then, when it comes to the perspective of funeral, how do you balance the environmental considerations against things like tradition, dignity, personal choice? Does it make it that bit harder by trying to keep things so much more sustainable?
I think it's hard because not everybody's on board, are we? And when I say everybody, I don't just mean like families. You know, certain suppliers or people that we use, if they're not on board, then elements of that funeral aren't going to be sustainable, are they?
No.
You know, so it's tricky, and I think it's a huge task, isn't it? You know, I mean, even countries can't get it right, so never mind small businesses. No. You know, there's so much to do, isn't there, around it? And, you know, I just hope it's not left until it's too late. That's the problem that we're facing, aren't we? Yeah. But, like I say, to me, I just had an interest in sustainability, and just by doing a little bit, if we all just did a little bit, then that's going to make a difference, isn't
Definitely.
it? Yeah.
Better than doing nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about trust when it comes to this and ethics behind it. So you'll get families that will maybe be sceptical when they hear the word green put in there. How can you kind of reassure them that what they are going for truly is something that's sustainable and as a green ethic is not just a word that's getting bandied around?
I think certainly for us and our own credibility and, you know, our own values, you know, whenever we're going to do something that's maybe a little bit different, we always research it. We speak to those people that we're going to be involved in, and, you know, it's making sure for us that it's right for our business. You know, we don't want to be telling people something that isn't true. You know, so for us, it's about making sure that we know what we're talking about. We've learnt about whatever it is, and we are giving the right information, you know, and I think that goes across the board for anything we do. You know, it's important that it's our reputation at stake, isn't it? If we're telling people something and it's not quite right, then
you shouldn't be saying it in the first place.
Absolutely not. So, you know, everything that we do around any supplier or any information we're giving out, we have to make sure it is 100% true.
So do you think by being a member of the Association of Green Funeral Directors, that kind of helps us be more transparent and stops kind of the greenwashing kind of feeling?
Yeah, definitely, because, you know, we are looking at that membership and that body as somebody that we trust because we've had conversations with them. They've been going for many years now. We believe in their values. You know, and I think for us it's around that accountability, you know, that we've got those people that we can go to if there's questions or anything that we're not sure of about sustainability.
And do you think for us personally, not just within work, being members of this association, do you think it's made us kind of be more ethical in our personal standards?
I think it has in some ways. I think there's probably more we could do. But as I say, I think sometimes the resources aren't out there. I think, for instance, we at one point had an electric car, didn't we?
Fully electric, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess in that sense, we thought, great, you know, we're becoming more sustainable, we're helping. But then what we quickly realised was that we were travelling up and down the country, having two children that are in different areas of the country, doing degrees at different universities. And what would take a 3-hour trip was taking sometimes 5 and 6 hours because we was having to stop, was having to find a charging point that was one that wasn't a slow charging point. That's if we turned up to a charging point and it was working, because in a lot of times we were turning up and they were broken, or there was a queue, or there was what we started to entitle electric rage.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people, you'd jump onto a charger and somebody would be tapping on your window and saying, how much longer are you going to be? You've already got 30% in your car. And it became quite stressful, didn't it?
It did, yeah. I must admit. The infrastructure at that point wasn't quite ready.
No. So, you know, there's certain things we've tried, but then we've had to revert back, you know, because time is of the essence, especially when you're running a business. Taking a 3-hour trip that turns into a 6-hour trip, it just became ridiculous, didn't it? So
we started doing management meetings in the car.
we did.
Didn't we? That was interesting. In pub car park.
Yeah, we did.
It's the only charger we could find.
Yeah. So it became quite stressful, that, you know, whether, again, it's around, I think, the country not been ready in some respects, isn't it, for some of these changes, or not quite getting it right.
Yeah. Okay, so if a family comes to you and they're looking at green options in their mind, what kind of misconceptions do you think they have about green funerals when they first start speaking to us?
I would say cost is a big one, you know, because when you're talking about the likes of some of the wicker coffins, you know, they can be a little bit more expensive than a traditional coffin. So I guess cost is an element. And, you know, I think anything sustainable does seem to have a bit more of a cost to it. So that's always going to be a tricky one, isn't it? You know, in terms of how you discuss with a family, you want them, you know, if you're talking around sustainability and they agree to that and that's what they want, but then if they've got a budget, that can be difficult.
It can, but I think probably they need to tell us that at the start, and then we will kind of make things work. We always do, don't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so this is a really contentious question coming up.
Go on.
So do you think that people assume greener funerals mean less care or less meaning? Are they thinking you're paring things back because you're trying to keep things more natural?
It could be, because everything is more natural, isn't it? And I think if I'm thinking of an experience actually where we had somebody who decided that they wanted to use a local green funeral director, and they were absolutely shocked around the strictness and the rules that they actually came to us, didn't they? And what they hadn't prepared the fact for was, when you have a green funeral, that you can't put trinkets, you can't put things in with the deceased, because all of those things are just not sustainable. And I think it was a big shock for them, wasn't it? Around that, you know, they couldn't, you know, put in like...
You couldn't put a photo frame, like a metal with glass and things like that. It's got to be something that's biodegradable, that over time is going to break down. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, when we do talk about sustainability and biodegradable, you know, when you are using these cemeteries, that's what it's got to be, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But, you know, when we talk to people about sustainable funerals, we go into all this in length, don't we, in terms of, you know, what is and what isn't allowed. And, you know, if you do want trinkets and things, then have a traditional cremation or service. It's not a problem, is it?
No.
But you've got to abide by the rules if you are going down the sustainability road.
Yeah. So as our experience grows in this sustainability journey, why do you think it's still so important to stay being a member of the Association of Green Funeral Directors?
Yeah, I think it is. To me, it's like a pledge, isn't it? That we've sort of said that we want to be part of helping with the future. You know, and I think I stick by that, as much as I think it's difficult and I think it's hard work, because, as I say, as a world, I think, you know, there's a lot of issues and obstacles around that. But, you know, we continue to do what we can.
So in this area, there's few and far between people members of this association. What does it mean to you as a business owner to be in a group like this, though, where there are like-minded funeral directors dotted around the country?
Yeah.
Not that you've got direct access to them, but knowing you're part of that community?
I feel extremely proud and privileged that we are part of it. And, it's a choice we made. And, it just gives us another level of experience in another area where we can give choices.
Yeah. And how do you think it helps us keep improving rather than kind of standing still?
But that's us, isn't it? We continuously look to improve, to give the best to our families, look at different areas, look for areas that are new. We're always, looking for changes where we can. That's just us as a company and as a business, isn't it? We don't stand still because we always want the best. We always want to be able to give those choices to families and look at areas where we can improve.
So how do you see Greener Funerals developing over the next few years?
I don't know, if I'm honest. I think it's a very slow journey. I think until the government ramp it up a bit more or make things a bit more accessible in terms of sustainability, I think we will just continue on this journey at such a slow pace. The momentum's got to come from the government, I think, for people to become fully on board with it. Whether it takes something in the world to happen for people to realise that, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's something that's been discussed. It became a bit fashionable at some point. It's now gone a bit quiet about it, but we just continue to do what we can.
Do you not think that the population's hand will be forced at some point into making a snap decision? Something will happen that will make us have to do.
Yeah, and I think sadly that's what usually happens, isn't it? There's either a disaster or something happens for things to change ultimately, doesn't it? But it's not just that the general public or small businesses, even the larger businesses, aren't they? They're not doing their bit for sustainability, so it's a ripple effect, isn't it? It's not going to trickle down if people higher up aren't sort of talking about it more.
So what responsibilities do we have as members of this association to kind of lead by example?
I think just doing what we're doing, giving people choices, giving, the fact that we can use sustainable burial grounds. We can obviously get supplies of coffins and other sustainable products, whether it's even just for ashes. Some of the ashes caskets are sustainable. Making sure that our business is sustainable in terms of the bricks and mortar, the cars we have, and just doing our bit.
Yeah. So what would you say to families or professionals who are still unsure about kind of working towards greener funeral care?
I think it's a choice, and like I said initially, I don't think it's something that I feel I want to push on people, because that's definitely not my job or my remit to do that. I think for what we do, it's become a habit, so we continuously do and strive for what we do. If more people did that and it became a habit, then you wouldn't notice, would you?
No.
But that's up to people's choices, and I'm not the government at the end of the day, and I'm not here to have that as a responsibility.
Okay. So last couple of questions for you. So if a family listening wanted a funeral that kind of reflects environmental values, what would you encourage them to ask you?
I guess in terms of the environment, as a funeral home, I guess, don't you? So, let's have a conversation about, I'll probably ask them really what their thoughts on sustainability are, because there can be very different sort of levels of what people think anyway. And then I think we would just have that conversation, and it would sort of grow from there to understand maybe what they would want. Then we would give them some options to see if that's what they were thinking about. It would just lead from there, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So final question. We know there's lots of other funeral directors listening to this. So what would you say to those that are considering joining this group? Would you encourage them to do that? And do you think it's the right thing for them to do?
I do, yeah. And I think, why would you not? I think it just, for us, it's, we are recognised as part of, in the area, as part of the Association of Green Funeral Directors, and a go-to funeral director for sustainability. We've got our knowledge, we've got the backing of that membership. I don't understand why you wouldn't. It's just something else that you're giving your families choices on. So why would you not?
You've heard it there, folks, from Nicola. Why would you not? Thanks for listening and watching in, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Just Talk Funerals.
We really care about what you think. We'd love your feedback on the subjects raised today, or maybe you have a question you would like us to talk about in a future episode. You can contact us by emailing podcast@threadgoldfunerals.com.
If you'd like to know more about what we do and the services we offer, then please head to jasonthreadgoldfuneraldirector.com. Thank you for joining us today, and see you next time.